Welcome to Giant Cocktails, a podcast where two lifelong fans talk about the San Francisco Giants while drinking homemade cocktails. Now, here are your hosts, Ben and Matthew Henry.
Hey there, Giants fans and cocktail enthusiasts. Welcome back to another episode of Giant Cocktails Midweek Review. I'm your host, Matthew, the Playbook Prodigy Henry, ready to dissect all the latest Giants drama one pitch at a time. But of course, I'm not flying solo. Joining me is the Baron of Batting Orders, the Commander of the Corkscrew, the man who knows his way around a lineup card and a liquor cabinet, Ben, the Dugout Distiller Henry. Whether it's calling the shots on the field or crafting a cocktail with finesse, Ben's always a step ahead. So pour yourself something nice and let's get into this week's breakdown. Let's go, Giants. How you doing, Commander of the Corkscrew?
Commander of the Corkscrew? I don't drink wine.
Yeah, maybe a New York Sour.
Okay, yeah, every now and then. But Matthew, that's what a good old box is for, you know. You just turn the tap and it just comes out. You know, sometimes you got to cut open the box and squeeze the bag. No corkscrew required.
Folks, those of you who know me who live in wine country, I do apologize for my brother. Just want to make it clear that I do not drink boxed wine.
Oh, sure. It's just those Paso Robles guys that sell the box wine, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it.
That's right. Exactly.
I get it.
Those Lodi guys.
You elitists. Oh, man. Can we keep talking about wine so we don't have to talk about the Giants?
No.
Oh,
no.
Man.
In fact... I mean, if you get the cocktail episodes going, then maybe we could, sneak in a little wine. But instead, we're stuck here talking about the Giants.
I've actually made significant progress. And you just motivated me. I'm going to double my efforts.
Okay. All right. Well, while we're doing that, why don't we at least acknowledge what we're drinking? Ben, what are you drinking today?
Today, Matthew, I am drinking a cocktail that I was just kind of looking through my cabinet and just decided to experiment off of, things that I don't really use that much. And I had some pineapple juice that I needed to use it or lose it. And I had this bottle of Pimm's #1 coupe. It's a thing from England, I guess. Yeah. It's kind of mild. And so I decided I would mix that together. So what I did was I took 2 ounces of white rum, 1 ounce of Pimm's #1 coupe, and then 1 ounce of pineapple juice. I shook that up with ice, and then I strained that into a coupe glass, and I garnished it with 3 cherries. And you'll notice that I didn't give you a name because I didn't know what to name this cocktail until I tasted it. And Matthew, this cocktail is kind of meh. It's not the worst cocktail I've ever had, but it's definitely not the best cocktail I've had. It's kind of forgettable. So therefore, I am naming it the 2024 Giants. And that's what I'm drinking today, Matthew, the 2024 Giants.
All right, not the best, not the worst, kind of boring.
That's right. Hit that one right on the head.
All right. Well, folks, if you want to get into the spirit of this season, definitely try the 2024 Giants. I decided that I was going to do something really simple because really I just didn't want to put as much effort after I didn't feel like the Giants deserved my best effort, to be honest. And so I'm bringing out a Tequila Old Fashioned, which makes this the 26th Old Fashioned that we've introduced on this show.
24 of them by Matthew.
No, you have done exactly a third of them.
Okay.
Going into today. So what's in my Tequila Old Fashioned this time around? Well, it's got 2 ounces of Anejo Tequila, a 1/4 ounce of Agave Nectar. Now, I should tell you that agave is really sweet. So you may be tempted to do more than that. But with the richness of the Anejo, just stick with a 1/4 ounce of the Agave Nectar. Then you're going to do 1 dash of chocolate bitters and 4 dashes of Angostura bitters. You're going to put all those into a mixing glass with ice and give it a good stir for about 30 seconds. Strain that into a rocks glass. preferably with a big chunk of ice, if not fresh ice. And you're going to take an orange peel and express the oils over the drink and drop the peel into the glass for your garnish. And that's a very nice sipping cocktail as you're contemplating life or the 2024 Giants. So that's what I'm drinking today, Ben, a Tequila Old Fashioned. All right. Well, what are we going to talk about today? So Ben and I usually, before we do our episodes, we sit down and we go over what we're going to talk about. And folks, I don't even know what to say. Well, we're going to talk about the White Sox series for one. We're going to talk about what that means to the Giants. And folks, I'm just going to warn you right now, it ain't good. Okay, it ain't good, but we're going to do the best we can to, at least I will, as our resident optimist, do the best I can to at least try and squeeze some bright future ahead thing. I don't know. I'm going to try anyway. And we're going to talk about what if. What if we didn't sign some of these free agents that we brought in this year, like Matt Chapman and Blake Snell, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, we're going to finish with our usual lightning round topics. Ben, today is Wednesday, August 21st. The Giants are 65-64. They went 2-1 this week against the White Sox, who are on pace to be the second worst team in baseball history. And we went 2-1. So, yay?
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to, I want to put a little asterisk on that second worst team in baseball history, because the worst team in baseball history stopped playing after the season where they set the record. Like they just ceased to exist after that.
The Cleveland Spiders were like, man, that sucked. We out.
That's it. We're done. They self-relegated is what they did. They unalived themselves, as the kids say these days. And that's how bad they were. They went 20-134. So really that doesn't count. So really the White Sox are the worst team that we've seen, well, in the modern era, in the World Series era. This is the worst.
Yeah.
And the Giants could only take 2 out of 3 from those losers.
And frankly, it looked like they were playing a normal team.
It did. Right? Yeah. 5-2, 4-1, 6-2. Like these look like two teams that had played roughly evenly matched over a 3-game series. It didn't look like that when I was watching the games. I must say, it didn't look like it when I was watching the game. But, the Giants were clearly the better team, but not by a ton. And certainly not offensively, right? And look, it's not fun to watch the White Sox play anybody, quite frankly. But this was just really kind of like an eye-opener. Like each game was close, right? You had to kind of sweat it out. And then it was just a typical San Francisco Giants good at pitching, bad at hitting experience in Game 3 today. And then, as sometimes happens, the bullpen for the Giants blinked first. And, it just wasn't great. And we really needed a great result, right? You needed to sweep these guys.
And we needed to because there's some context behind this, right? First of all, the season is a dwindling, okay? There's not a whole lot of time left. And second of all, we've actually been playing really good baseball since the All-Star break.
Pretty good baseball.
Pretty good baseball. Enough. It would, if we'd been playing this way the whole year, we'd definitely be in the wild card standings, in a wild card spot.
Oh, that's for sure.
And so I'm thinking we've played so well, and yet we're worse in the standings than we were at the All-Star break.
Yeah. Yeah, the Giants were 3 games out of the last wild card spot at the All-Star break.
They've gone 18-14 in that time. Yes. And now they're 4 games out of the wild card spot.
They played the White Sox. Yeah.
Yeah. The point is that whatever they've been doing hasn't been good enough. And when you have an opportunity to sweep a team like the White Sox, you, at this point of the season, they needed to do that. And they didn't. And they had an opportunity, but they couldn't score runs. You have your ace on the mound going 8 innings, only giving up 2. Got off to kind of an unlucky start, gave up the triple, and then, was down 1-0 right off the bat, and then battled for the next 7 innings. And then your team just can't score runs against the team that outside of Colorado is the worst pitching staff in baseball. And we're at the point now where you can't make excuses anymore or start being like, oh, well, they'll get the next ton. We're running out of next ones. I'm having a hard time being optimistic, Ben. I'm not going to lie. I did a little math, Ben, and I, 85 wins seems to be the number that you got to get to if you want to make the playoffs. Last year, 84 wins got into the playoffs. Over the last 6 seasons, it's ranged from 83 to 87 wins. But so 85 is the average. You're going to need 85 wins right now to get into the playoffs. The Giants would need to go 20-13 in order to do that. That sounds like impossible. But then, you just said we went 18-14.
Yeah.
That's not terribly different than 20-13. So, and I actually looked. I started looking at how did the Giants do? Did they have any stretches where they went 20-13? Because it seemed like in my mind, never. Like they never had a 20-13 stretch at any point in the last since 2014. That's what it seemed like. But then I went back and I'm like, 2021 for sure. They probably did. And yeah, there were a lot of stretches there. But then actually 2022, guess what our record was over the last 33 games of the season? That's right, 20-13. And so it can be done, Ben. It can be.
You make a good point, right? This is still possible. They are only 4 games out of the wild card spot. And the Braves, the team that they're chasing, has been playing under 500 since the All-Star break. So even though the Giants have lost a game on the 3rd wild card spot since the All-Star break, they have gained a lot of games against the Braves.
Well, the Braves were the first team in the wild card spot at that point.
That's right. They were. And so now the Padres and the D-bags are the 2 best teams since the break. And so they have just raced past the Braves. And the Braves are really kind of struggling at this point. So I think that is another reason why you can be optimistic about the Giants' chances, because everybody else around them seems to be fading as well. Like nobody else can get traction. And so it's really about who's going to hold on the longest. Now, the one thing about your hypothesis about them going 20-13, Matthew, and have they done it before? Well, yeah, but you know what? They did that. What did we say? They just went
2022.
They just went 18-14 though.
Oh, right.
Remember? And one of the things that we said why they had a really good chance of making the playoffs was they had the easiest schedule for the last 2 months. Well, that's not true anymore. They don't have the easiest schedule from here on out because they only have 3 more games against losing teams. They did that 18-14 run against the easy part of their schedule. It only gets harder from here.
I don't like you.
Yeah, I know you don't. But that's why people come here, Matthew. They need a dose of reality. After they get all the Kool-Aid from all the other places, they need to come here and get some straight ethanol.
All right. We are doing a service to our fans to not let them get their hopes up too high.
That's right. I'm delivering some 100% truth serum. But you know what I'm doing, Matthew? I'm validating their internal doubts. I'm saying that those voices of concern in your heads, folks, those are real. But before I do that, I do want to point out there is still some good news. The good news is the Mets and the Braves, who I think are the only 2 teams that legitimately are contending with the Giants right now. I really do think this is a 3-team race.
Okay.
I think it's the Braves, the Mets, and the Giants. Well, the Mets are playing the Orioles, the Padres, and the D-bags over the next 3 series. Well, that was true. That was true until today, when they finished their series against the Orioles, in which they went 2-1 against the Orioles. So the Mets went 2-1 against the Orioles, and the Giants went 2-1 against the White Sox. And the Mets get to play the White Sox later at the end of this month. Now the Braves, though, things don't look so great for them. They are in the middle of a series against the Phillies, where they have split the first 2 games. They play the Nationals, which is not so great, but then they play the Twins, then the Phillies again, And then in September, oh wait, they've got the Rockies and the Washington Nationals again. Oh, but then they play the Dodgers. Oh, but then they play the Reds and the Marlins.
We're doomed.
But they do play the Mets. The Mets and the Braves play each other in the second to last series of the month. That means that it's probably going to go down to that series. It'll probably be like the Giants could catch one of them, but not since they're playing each other.
Yeah.
So that's actually probably bad for the Giants.
Yeah, them playing each other is not a good thing.
So what I'm saying is, while the Mets have a test and the Braves have a little bit of a test, the rest of their season is not quite as hard as the Giants. And so the Giants have gone 18-14 against the easiest part of their schedule. And so things only get more difficult from here.
Okay, but I'm trying to get into this optimism thing again.
Sure.
So the Braves, though, are not the team that got them into this good record to begin with. I mean, they've lost quite a bit of their talent. So now you might be able to slot them into one of are they on par with the Reds or the Nationals, at this point? You don't know. So I don't think we could just say, oh, they're gonna beat those teams, because they're not the same Braves team that we saw at the beginning of the year.
That is true. That is true.
So that's just say that. That's true. And move on.
Okay. That's true. Folks, I'm winking. If we had a camera, folks, I'm winking at you, the listener. Yeah, sure, Matthew. Sure. I mean, here's the thing. They're only 4 games out of the last wild card, Matthew, and there are way more than 4 games left. And that's all we need to know.
Yeah. I know. And I'm trying to be optimistic. The thing that kind of irks me or gives me pause, I should say, is that it's really hard to make up a game a week, in the standings. I mean, and that's basically where they're at now. I mean, they need to make up a game a week. They need to they can't be tied with the Braves at the end of this. They need to be a game above the Braves because they lost the tiebreaker. That's
true, because that lost that series. See, now who's being the pessimist?
I'm just...
why did you have to tell me that?
I'm sorry.
Here I was thinking they were only 4 games out. So what you're saying is they're 5 games out.
They're 5 games out.
They're not 4. They're the 1 game worse than what they are. So now I have to hope that the Mets move into that spot and then the Giants get
You're welcome.
I hate you.
All right. Enough.
Yeah, you're right. And they have, well, you know what? They have 5.5 weeks left and they only have to make up 5 games. So there you go. Plenty of time.
All right, Ben. Well, enough about the White Sox series. We were talking off air and you brought up an interesting question. And I think this deserves some airtime for our listeners here. Matt Chapman and Blake Snell have been our best players. You look at since the All-Star break, especially, and Matt Chapman on WAR has been our best player the entire season.
Oh yeah, Matt Chapman has been the best player for the Giants all year, hands down. Blake Snell, first half Blake Snell really hurt second half Blake Snell. But if you forget about first half Blake Snell, yeah, those 2 guys have been amazing.
And we wouldn't be where we are right now without them. I think that's safe to say, right? And I just, so you were like, well, that wasn't part of their plan, right? I mean, the only reason the Giants signed them is because they could on these short-term contracts.
That's right.
And so what if Blake Snell and Matt Chapman went off and got their bags somewhere else? Matt Chapman signed with the Dodgers and Blake Snell signed with the Dodgers. And so what would the Giants have done if they didn't have those? What will we look like now? And would we be sitting here like even thinking about the playoffs at that point?
Well, I'll tell you this. Scott Boras is not as dumb as we said he was. I mean, from a market standpoint, he was dumb because he didn't get his guys the contracts. But he was right in terms of their value, because if any of those contenders had signed these guys, they would be way better off than they are now.
And wouldn't be questioning that contract at all.
No. So those guys should have gotten those contracts.
Yeah.
And if anybody else had signed them before the beginning of spring training, the Giants wouldn't have them on their team. And it's clear that the Giants didn't plan on signing them. They were never going to be the one team that gave out those long contracts. So any other team could have swooped in and taken them. So then the question is, what was the original plan? Like, what would we have seen instead? Well, J.D. Davis would not have gone to Oakland and then gotten traded to the Mets? Or no, he got DFA'd and then, I don't know. He ended up on the Mets for like a hot second. Or was it the Yankees? I don't remember. But then he got DFA'd by them, and now he's in the minor leagues. It's not been a good year for J.D. Davis.
No.
But like if J.D. Davis had played that poorly for the Giants, they probably would have DFA'd him by now.
Casey Schmidt would be our starting third baseman. Or Marco Luciano. Who knows what they would have done.
Yeah, that's right. And it's safe to say that everything else probably would have gone the same way, right? I think you definitely unload Slater. You sell, if you can move him, and which you could. If everything else stays the same, you can move him to the Braves. So you would still have had the breakout of Fitzgerald, the breakout of Ramos, the breakout of Birdsong, possibly sooner, although possibly not, because he was in Double-A when he started. So the point is like, to me, it just seems like whatever the plan was, whatever they felt like was a good plan, was going to be way worse than this. But I wonder if it would have been better, because a lot of these young guys would have had more playing time. You certainly wouldn't have had Marco Luciano being jerked around like he's some sort of afterthought. Like the whole thing is just really bizarre. Like you would have seen all of these young guys sooner. They would have had more time at the major leagues. The team would still be bad, but at least you'd know more about who you had. And, I really feel like, was it all worth it? And really, what was the plan? What was the plan?
Well, that's the question. It doesn't seem like there was one. And I will push back a little bit on the Marco Luciano thing, because they did give him an opportunity. They traded Ahmed, said he was going to be the shortstop, and then the guy couldn't catch a ball. Okay. And so maybe, you could point fingers at their player development role and why they keep insisting he's a shortstop, but they did give him an opportunity to play shortstop, and he didn't take advantage of that.
Well, but here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying, though. They probably would have still be giving him that opportunity, right? They wouldn't have given him a week, 10 days at shortstop? They would have said, you know what? I mean, these losses don't matter. We're already out of the playoffs. And so they would have given him more time there.
Well, that's the rub. That's the rub, right? We would be out of the playoffs. We wouldn't be contending. It would be a developmental year for a lot of these guys. It would be, let's see what we got. And again, the Giants have tried to avoid that. Farhan has tried to avoid that, right? I mean, that's what 2021 was all about. All these platoons and things, like getting players on deals because you at least be competitive while you wait for your farm system to develop. They didn't want to do the rebuild and bring these guys up. So,
but the problem is that when you wait for your farm system to develop, like, what does that mean? And I'm not sure the Giants know what that means.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? I've yelled about this on the show before. The only way that a prospect goes from a prospect to a major leaguer is by playing him. And it's almost as if the Giants think that they have to go from prospect to fully formed, well-established major leaguer in one day. Like, I don't know, like Paul Skeens or something.
Yeah.
And those guys are rare. And it seems like the Giants have just been assuming or hoping or trying to get all of these guys to do that, and then they don't do that, so they shuffle them in and out, and they never get a chance to settle, and nobody knows where they stand. None of the fans know where these guys stand, and more importantly, I don't think the Giants know where they stand. They don't know which of these guys are going to be on their roster or not next year. Like, which one of them are going to be the starters and which ones aren't? They have no idea.
Well, and that's a problem. And that's a good point, because if you play these guys all year long, then after a season, you kind of know, right? But when you've only given them 10 games here, 20 games there, you don't really know. And I think that's probably, it lends to some of the paralysis we see as far as, development of these players. So I'm with you there. You asked like, how do you know that they're ready? I'm pretty sure it's you push on them, and if it rebounds, they rebound a little bit, then they're done.
Right. But if your finger leaves a dent, it's got to go back in.
It is, yeah.
It's got to go back in, yeah. Well, they must not know that because they don't.
No, they don't. Not at all.
They don't seem to know. Right.
It's time for a lightning round.
All right. Let's do it.
Okay, yes. All right, Bob. Let's do it because, I'm done talking about what ifs. So, all right, Ben, here's a question for you. Do you believe in jinxes?
Do I believe in jinxes?
Because we definitely jinxed Austin Riley.
We did, didn't we? We did.
Yes, last week we said the Braves were one major injury away from the Giants making the playoffs, and then the next day Austin Riley gets broken and breaks a bone.
That's right. I totally forgot about that. You're right. I mean, that's another reason why the Giants could make the playoffs. Well, that's the reason why the Mets could make the playoffs, I guess. But yeah, we did. The problem is that we said, maybe that's how it works. We say Marcell Ozuna, but I guess that was just an example, right? Because
yeah, I mean, he was the one with the most production, so that's I was aiming big.
Exactly.
But,
yeah, well, shoot for the star.
But Austin Riley is a pretty big part of their player. Of their,
you know what they
team,
say, Matthew?
So.
Shoot the star. I mean, shoot for the stars.
That's right. And you may hit the moon.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
shoot for the Ozuna, and you might hit the Riley.
That's right. And he's not been having a great year, but still, he's an important player for them, and he's been having a decent year. So yeah, no, I mean, I sound way too happy about this. This is,
it's really bad.
It is bad.
Yeah. That's bad for baseball.
I hope he gets better soon.
Yeah.
Anyway yeah.
Because I believe we jinxed him. Do the Giants miss Austin Slater?
No. I mean,
but we had an Austin Slater sighting today, didn't we?
We did, man. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, Matthew. I've been scoreboard watching, and in fact, I've been doing more than that because I have the MLB.TV app. So I've been game watching. And as much as a pessimist as I am, I'm still there watching the Mets and the Braves games, closely. And there I was, just real frustrated. I was watching the Mets broadcast, Keith Hernandez, San Francisco guy. I was watching the Mets game today, watching the Mets broadcast, and these guys were saying things like, he's retired 15 in a row. They're trying to get around the fact that Manaea is throwing a perfect game. And so I thought, oh, man, I have to tell Matthew this. Like, Sean Manaea's.
Yeah, and so you jinxed Manaea. I like it. Yeah.
I did. I jinxed him. Because, boom, he hits Jackson Holliday on the next pitch.
As soon as you text me that Manaea is throwing a perfect game.
Yeah, I totally jinxed it. And good, right?
Right.
Go Orioles. And then Austin Slater comes to the plate, and I swear to God, it was the first pitch. Just turned on it. A blast. It was a no-doubter. All of New York just went, oh. And the game was tied. And I was like, what a moment. Oh, Austin Slater, good to see you. That was the biggest hit he had for the Giants all year, Matthew. I'm not kidding.
It was. It was definitely the biggest hit for the Giants all year. Against a former Giant.
Unfortunately, they lost.
Yeah, they did lose. But, hey. All right, final question of the lightning round, Ben.
All right, yeah, here we go.
You might not believe this. We're going to ask this again. Are the Giants making the playoffs?
No.
Yes, they are. They're making the playoffs. They could go 20-13, Ben. They can. I'm saying they're going all the way.
I'm sorry. The White Sox series did it to me, Matthew. I just dove out of the bandwagon. That was it. Today in the 9th inning, as Bivens gave up those back-to-back singles, that was me. That was me diving out the door into the ditch on the side of the road because I saw a nice grassy spot to land. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the back-to-back singles were not so bad as the back-to-back walks earlier in the inning. So
yeah. Don't worry. I left my clown mask on the dashboard.
Okay. All right. Good. I'll collect it later. All right. Well, upcoming opponents, Seattle Mariners. Who never ceases to amaze me.
They suck right now.
Okay, but they are like the Giants of the Pacific Northwest, and they're 64-63, a game over 500. That didn't surprise me when I saw their record. I was like, of course they are. Notable players to play for both teams, Pitchers Edition. Hall of Famers Gaylord Perry and Randy Johnson, pride of Livermore High School, and our own Sergio Romo. Pitched in like 14 games or something like that for the Mariners.
Randy Johnson was a Cowboy? Man.
He was.
Wow, crazy. Did not know that. I will say this. The Mariners, even though they're 64 and 63, they were leading the AL West by a ton. They have been abysmal recently. We might be able to call them cupcakes. They're cupcakes in disguise.
Oh, okay.
I predict a very close series, Matthew.
Yeah, they're 3-7 in their last 10 games, so they are definitely struggling.
I predict a close series in which the Giants will have a lot of opportunities to drive runs in and not score any.
Oh, gee, that's a bold prediction.
Doesn't mean they're going to lose the series, though.
All right.
And that's a wrap on the Midweek Review, folks. Thank you for joining us. We will be back on Monday with the big show, where the cocktails will be stronger and less mediocre, and the rants will be longer, but equally mediocre. If you can't wait that long to get your fix, feel free to reach out to us on the social medias. You can find us on Instagram and Threads and Mastodon and the Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, where we go by the username Giant Cocktails. You can also find us on YouTube. So run over there to like, subscribe, and comment. And be our 12th subscriber, unless somebody's already done that, in which case, you could be lucky 13. But most importantly, be sure to leave us a positive review, like 5 stars positive, at your podcasting platform of choice, a.k.a. Apple Podcasts or Slutify. Oh, by the way, at Snanonify, you can now leave comments on the episodes.
Ooh.
I don't know how. I just got an email that they said that people could do that. I don't know how you do it. I didn't try to go look at a podcast and find out. But allegedly you can. So do that, because I do know where to go to read them.
I'm going to leave a comment every time now.
Okay. Matthew, you were sort of believable today. Keep up the good work. Cheers, my friend.
I'll take it. Cheers, Ben. Bye, everybody.
I mean, it was the optimism. I mean, you genuinely seem to believe what you're saying, but at the same time, I can see the look in your eye where you're just like, I don't believe what I'm saying. This can't possibly be right. It's like your brain is like, wait a second, did I think this through?
My brain and my emotions often battle each other, Ben. It's just the way it is.
Right. Well, I'm glad you're letting your emotions win.
Thanks. I'm always happier when that happens, actually.
Right. That's true. Yeah. Why let logic get in the way of happiness?
Exactly. Downer.
That's right. It's like, anyway, goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Giant Cocktails Podcast. Until next time, bottoms up.
At least we're not White Sox fans.
Seriously. Like, we're in purgatory. White Sox fans are in hell.
And Chicago fans are just passionate people, too. I mean, they just must be like jumping in the river at this point. Like, I don't know. I feel bad for them.
Yeah, especially since they have the Chicago Cubs fans to deal with.
Yes, oh, man. Insufferable.
Which is really got to suck. Yeah.
It does.
The question is, in 5 years from now, will the White Sox be better or worse than the Giants? My guess is the White Sox will be better. Farhan Zaidi will be in his 10th year, and they'll just be like, next year is going to be the year where it all comes together. Matthew, did you see the 9-year-old announcer that they had? The Mets?
He was amazing.
That kid was better at announcing at 9 years old than I will ever be at anything in my whole life. He was so good.
So good. I think the Giants should just add him to the booth.